It's already been a fun day in and around Studio 31. Looking forward to that continuing over the next hour. Daren Millard and Brian McCormack at the controls today as we bring you down to our desk, looking ahead to Game 4 of this second-round Stanley Cup Playoffs series between the Edmonton Oilers and your Vegas Golden Knights 2-1 Oilers after 3 games. A lot to get to over the next 60 minutes, including a chat, or you will hear from Bruce Cassidy from his media availability ahead of Game 4, and that will include an update on Mark Stone's status.
Yeah, you said it's already been a fun day at Studio 31. How so? Because
Well,
you're dressed far
fun.
better than I am, but like the tie is undone. You look like it's like 12:07 on New Year's Eve. Like
It's
party time.
No, 12:07 is a much different one for me. More than the ties undone, a little disheveled, walking out of there. I'm doing the pregame show tonight at 6 o'clock from Studio 31.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Elliott, Dave Gosher will stop by, Ashley Weiss in Edmonton. So I just thought instead of changing midway through the day, I would just wear the suit.
Which is, I wish I'd known that, though, because I would have worn my one suit.
No, I wasn't going to tell you because I wanted this to be a look
This kind
today.
of, all right,
Yeah.
well, it's important, because you're the formal, well-produced professional side of playoff hockey, and I'm the other side. We're halfway through round 2. Playoff beard in full effect. I'm sure everyone's. Well, yours isn't in full effect. You're not a playoff beard kind of guy?
No, I was told.
You bleached the hair a little bit.
I was told no, and that's a natural bleach.
The frosted
occurs.
tips.
You're right about that. People pay big money for what I have naturally.
That's right.
Occur. Like this is huge. What happens in the front here?
That is
it's like I got struck by lightning or something. I once had a
You're
boss.
an X-Men.
I once had a boss make me dye this thing though. You know that?
Dye more gray?
Silver. No,
Silver. Excuse me.
brown. Wanted it gone.
Just uniform brown.
Said I will give you the job. You can do the job, but you have to dye your hair.
And you hear about that all the time. Those special players who, their high school coach or their college coaches didn't understand that spark that made them special. He tried to suppress
near the same.
What makes you an international superstar.
Right there.
And playoff ready.
The lightning strike on my forehead. 2-1, Edmonton. Vegas rallies in Game 3. It's been a funny series. Leads have been really hard, almost impossible to maintain. As the Vegas Golden Knights win with 0.4 seconds to go in Game 3. It has a different feel to it now. You need it to win Game 3 if you're Vegas. Now the vibe that I get is it's on.
It's put the onus back on Edmonton, too, because for the Oilers, Game 3 came with some change. Of course, Stuart Skinner in for Calvin Pickard. It looked like Stuart Skinner is going to go again for Game 4. And just looking at some of their morning skate materials from this morning, it looks like there might be some more changes, some more shuffling. There's talk of Troy Stetcher perhaps coming in, Kasperi Kapanen coming in. So for an Oilers team that felt like it had a really good stranglehold on this series through 2 games and is, maybe a bounce away from a 3-0 series lead, now they find themselves in the position of having to respond. Meanwhile, you have a Golden Knights team that overcame a 2-goal deficit. There's been 2-goal deficits overcome in all 3 games of this series. So like you said, no lead looks safe. But the Golden Knights, not only did they respond in Game 3 the way they needed to, not only did they do that without Mark Stone for the vast majority of that game, and we're going to find out what his status looks like going forward into tonight's contest, but they took a punch late in that game. Connor McDavid scores to tie the game late in the third period, and you think, okay, this is one of the – I've heard a couple of people online say, the online types would say that Edmonton has a feeling of inevitability about them this spring. Well, you countered that, and you did in dramatic, memorable fashion with Riley Smith, who he and William Karlsson had a phenomenal night, that you got the night you needed, and now you put it in the rearview mirror and you get ready to go again.
By the way, that's the second time it's happened to Edmonton where they've tied a game really late.
Yeah.
And not even got it to overtime. Occurred in the first round against the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
So bizarre because everybody's getting ready for overtime. And I was of the same ilk and was a little bit, for that fraction of a second, wondering how Riley didn't just put his head down and hit that puck as hard as he could at the top of the circle. And he makes the move and ends up in the back of the net. I was stunned by that incredible patience.
I've watched that. The patience was tremendous because I've watched that like 3 times, and each time I just freeze frame it. And when Riley Smith gets the puck, you look at it like, all right, there's 3 Oilers between he and Skinner. He outweighs them. I think the Oilers perhaps take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit too. Everyone thinks overtime is pending. And Smith and Carlson, too, driving into the zone, making the play happen. But Smith stays with the play, outweighs everyone, outweighs Skinner, pulls Skinner way out, and gets a fortunate bounce off of Draisaitl. But that's him keeping the play alive when I think a lot of people in the building were getting ready to go to the restroom and get ready for overtime intermission.
Or we're already there.
Yeah, you know what it reminded me of, actually? Because after the game, I'm listening to the post-game show because I was working Nighthawks, so I had to catch the highlights afterwards. But when I left Lee's Family Forum, Ryan Wallace was still going on the extended post-game show. He was taking some phone calls, and one of the callers says, like, oh, it reminded me of the Patrick Kane Stanley Cup goal in 2010. No one knew it was in by Patrick Kane. That's a fair memory to harken back to. But this reminded me of, this is going in the way back machine, but you're buddies with Doug McLean, so you might remember this. This is worth a YouTube rabbit hole. Going back to 1997, so way back, Esa Tikkanen in a series, it was the Rangers and the Panthers, kind of does this exact same thing. It's not the same style of goal, but Tikkanen takes a shot from the right wing side. It beats John Van Beesbroek, hits the camera and pops out. And nobody in the building knew it was in, but Esa Tikkanen. Everyone else keeps playing, and Tikkanen's in the middle with his arms up, just waiting for everyone to come over to him. And they go to review. And again, if you go into this way back machine, because you have, I think it was Dan Mirowelli or Doug Mirowelli, whoever the referee is. I looked this up because it reminded me, and he's on the phone. There's no headsets. He's on the phone. It's that far back, but as the review is going, you just see everyone start to realize and figure it out. And when I saw this, and everyone's waving their arms or shrugging, but Riley Smith has his arms in the air. I was like, I have seen this before.
But then
it's a puck that hits
pauses.
the camera.
Yeah, Riley pauses, and he's wondering because the referee is waving it off, and then the players come out, and there seems to be a little bit more confirmation with the players.
Yeah. No one likes to be the only guy celebrating.
Then they get the word from Dave Rogowski or the bench. Like the bench knew.
Yep.
The Vegas bench knew before anybody.
Yes, now in a world of tablets and different viewpoints and stuff, you figure it out faster.
Did it go in? And I thought maybe it might have hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
But did it go in, and then did it beat the clock?
Yeah.
And it did both.
It is worth a YouTube. But it's also funny.
That was 1997?
97, Rangers and Panthers, and it was Esa Tikkanen.
Okay. And Tikkanen was telling everybody it went in, but nobody can understand him.
Well, we just said Riley Smith is celebrating and then says, well, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe, yeah.
Esa Tikkanen never had that concern that he might be wrong, but it's worth a YouTube. It's kind of a fun throwback. But you know what else I thought to myself, Darren, is the end result of the Riley Smith goal is it's a goal, it wins the game, but for some reason, I don't know about you, it means more coming with 0.4 seconds left than it does if it was in overtime. It's kind of the same result, but for some reason... maybe it's because in the regular season we're conditioned of like, oh, if you lose with 0.4 seconds left, you don't get the point you could have gotten. Maybe that's what's in the back of my head. But for some reason, the fact that they found a way to do it in that dramatic of a style means more going into Game 4 than if they'd done it 6 minutes into overtime. It doesn't. It shouldn't. And maybe it just flat out doesn't. But for some reason, it had more zip to it in terms of narrative building throughout this series.
A few different threads to pull on from the game that got overshadowed from Riley Smith's late goal, and we'll get into that. Mark Stone, his situation going into Game 4 tonight, where they are with some of their combinations, the William Karlsson, Riley Smith chemistry that continues to give. There's a lot, including just the great response defensively in Game 3. It didn't get near the attention that it should have with the performance in controlling the Edmonton Oilers. But we'll get into that in a little bit more, along with Bruce Cassidy from Edmonton, looking ahead to Game 4 tonight. Get the latest from the Vegas Golden Knights head coach as we continue on Nighttime at Noon. Don't you wish you could keep up with VGK right at the touch of your screen? Well, now you can with the official mobile app of the Vegas Golden Knights. So you can scan, buy, and transfer tickets, play new exclusive games, access live stats, receive game updates, and so much more. The official mobile app of the Vegas Golden Knights is available now on your smartphone through the App Store and Google Play. We've got watch parties to talk about, both at the Circus Sportsbook and America First Center, the Plaza. Both have been moved inside, but we're looking forward to having everybody, closer confines tonight over at Circus Sportsbook and America First Center Plaza. Tonight we'll bring you a little more details on that as we continue at nighttime at noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas and all the VGK social media channels. Game 4 of the second round series between Edmonton and Vegas coming up tonight in Edmonton. The road team has won every game in this series, so looking forward to that continuing. Hey, Vegas fans, if you want more Golden Knights content and you want to stay up to date with what's going on through their journey in the 2025 Stanley Cup postseason, head over to the Vegas Golden Knights YouTube channel right now and subscribe. You can watch all access player interviews, videos, game highlights, and our newest behind-the-scenes video, the series, The VGK Way. Subscribe to our channel today and stay up to date on all things VGK and revisit some of our greatest moments as the Golden Knights. Daren Millard along with Brian McCormack and friends here in Studio 31, hours before Game 4 of this series. Still thinking back to Riley Smith with the goal in under a second, and that's 2 goals that Vegas has now scored inside the final second of the third period in these playoffs.
Yeah,
with the overtime or the empty net goal by
right.
Brett Howden in the first round. So I'm not sure that was on the bingo card. William Karlsson, third player in franchise history with 70 career playoff points, and Nick Waugh scored the other night. Huge, coming off the penalty that he took in overtime. That must have been excruciating, sitting in the locker room after being ejected from the game, and then coming back and jump-starting the eventual comeback.
Yeah, and it was a putback rebound at the side of Stuart Skinner, which, again, Stuart Skinner, who's we've talked so much in these playoffs about Connor Hellebuck and the pressure that he's under. Stuart Skinner's under some pressure now, too, after what Calvin Pickard did. Skinner comes in, he's 0-3 in these playoffs now. And a couple of saves he made in that game where he kind of stumbled backwards, didn't seem to have his balance. That was one of them, and Nick Waugh was able to put the rebound in. And the Golden Knights scoring twice in less than a minute to tie the game. And again, another 2-goal lead gone in this series. So no lead is safe between the Golden Knights and the Oilers thus far. But a great job, really, for the VGK depth. It's always such a storyline for the Golden Knights in the playoffs, what they get from the depth. First of all, I think the Eichel line has been, of course, producing offense, but they've been such a defensive factor in both of these series now, getting lined up against the Kaprizov line, now getting lined up a lot against McDavid. You need your lower lines to generate offense, too, and between Smith and Waugh, they got that in spades in Game 3.
Played much of the game without Mark Stone. His status in question going into Game 4. Bruce Cassidy addresses that and more. This is from moments ago in Edmonton ahead of Game 4.
Bruce, can you confirm that Mark Stone's good to go today? He'll be a game-time decision. He was out there this morning, and we'll see how he reacts to that.
Lost the special teams battle last game, but were you pleased with 5-on-5 to make up for it?
Yeah, and I thought we did a decent job in the kill. It was a good tip by Perry. He's good at that. We didn't give up a whole lot. It wasn't a lot of sustained pressure. I thought our first power play was good. Our second one, we were out of sync. But 5-on-5 is usually where it's won and lost, especially if the calls go down as the series goes on. I don't know if that'll be the case, but it's kind of typical. So good to see us back in the plus side of that last game. I think that's been a strength of our team all year, so that needs to be a strength in the series.
There seems to be a belief on both sides, really, that, you're not really out of it no matter what the score is. Like, there's these continued comebacks that we see and such. Where does that come from your group, do you think?
Well, our guys, I think in the regular season we were one of the better teams at that. Obviously, Edmonton is in the playoffs. They got on a run there, so they feel comfortable playing from behind. I think there's a little bit of experience there. And the other thing is, you can score, right? If you're a team that doesn't score much, that can get in your head if you get behind. But I think both teams know they have the ability to finish. So I don't think they get too worked up about being behind. I don't think it's a formula you want to go through every night. But this is the NHL. You're playing against good players every night. You're not going to be at your best for stretches of time. I think getting through those stretches is the biggest challenge. And the teams that do that, I think, end up being fine. It's, you can't take 20, 30 minutes off. In 5 or 6, 7 minutes, sometimes it doesn't go your way, but that's what we're focused on, trying to limit those lulls.
Are there particular guys that set that tone on the bench, maybe when you're down, whether it be messages? Is it the same guys?
Yeah, well, listen, it's typically your leaders, and obviously the coaches have to do their part there, but I think when the players start mentioning it, it means a lot more. Our guy's Petro. He's a very vocal guy. Naber will speak up there. Obviously, Mark Stone's an emotional leader, but Jack's always been a guy that will, send the message he needs to in those situations. So, we've got lots of guys, and most of the good teams do have their guys that have to do that. It's part of the game, and it happens almost every night.
How much do you change your approach? Looks like they're splitting up McDavid and Draisaitl. How much do that change your approach defensively?
Well, listen, we got our guys we feel that we'd like to on the ice when they're out there, either separate or together. You know who they are. So we'll try to, find that matchup if we can without disrupting our whole rhythm of the game. That's what we'll always try to do. The deep pair, John and I will talk about it, maybe depends on who's on their wings. We've seen a lot of Nugent Hopkins and Hyman with McDavid over the years, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way they go. But at the end of the day, it's a challenge either way. We got to be ready, make sure we're on top of it. And if whoever's out there, I've said this, Danny, many times, we'll play everybody, but you got to be aware when they're on the ice what their offensive tendencies are, to get their half-court game going, and then how to get, make sure you're working over top of them. The first game we got caught. Game 1 or 2, I forget, it was Perry's goal, the 3-on-2. We weren't over top of them. We were kind of standing there, and that's a mistake you can't make. Early in the series it happens, but we can't repeat that. So it doesn't matter who's out there, and that's kind of how we handle it.
Hayden Hill made some big saves for you, especially in the third period before he got beat on the bad bounce. But do you like how his game is trending?
Yeah, he's a gamer. He gets better as the game goes on, and can't fault him for any of the goals. They're good shots. We got to be better in front of him early. But he got better in the Minnesota series progressively, as the team did. So, to me, they're intertwined, right? That's how we've always had success. When we play well in front of him, he'll be better. And that's the formula for us.
Where do you feel like the confidence level is? Like, you feel like you played 2 good games. You're still down in the series, though.
I do. I think we know that game 2 could have went either way. I mean, we didn't play well in game 1, but it was tied with 3 minutes to go. So we're right there. We had a lead going into the third. So, we feel if we can get to our game that, we can get the wins. I'm sure they feel the same way. But at the end of the day, our guys know you got to get, and it's cliche, but you got to get better throughout the series, and we have. So that's the positive. I know we're down a game, but if we keep getting better, then we feel that we can catch up and get ahead.
Do you also have to remind them, keep the urgency up?
Well, I think they know, to be honest. For us, it's maybe the start, right? Make sure we start on time. We've been hit or miss with that. This is a loud building, and we feel like they'll be ready to go. So make sure you match their intensity early and get yourself in the game, and don't take yourself out of it. We almost did the other day early. They hit a crossbar. It could have been 3-0, right? So we got to be a little more, we talked about earlier, the lulls have to be a lot shorter, especially with a dynamic offensive team, because they could bury you early if you're not careful. So that's more the message about the urgency.
Bruce, does it take a special player like Eichel who can play both special teams and 5-on-5?
Yeah, I mean, we would prefer less PK time for him, but he is a right stick for draws, and he wants it. So when your best players want to be out there, as a coach, you're constantly negotiating that ice time. The first year he didn't kill much, and then we built that in, and he's done a great job for us. So it's hard not to put your best killer out there, even though you're trying to manage his minutes. So that's what's happened with Jack, and I love it because there was a lot of questions about his 200-foot game not that long ago, and he's bought into it and more. So I don't want to take that away from him. But, most of the top teams have a guy like that can drive offense and play against anybody in check. And he's developed into that player, and, we're grateful to have him.
There's the media availability from Bruce Cassidy that occurred right after the Golden Knights morning skate in Edmonton. Love to hear from you as well. We'll take your questions and your comments later on the show. Put them in the chat box on X, YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, and send us your thoughts ahead of Game 4. Maybe a question, but just what are you feeling right now going into a set in which the Golden Knights can tie this series?
I'll tell you, I think Bruce talks about what Jack Eichel's line has been able to do, and especially with Mark Stone when healthy and hopefully available for the Golden Knights tonight. That'll be a game-time decision. But they've done such a good job against top lines. And we mentioned against Minnesota that John Hines wasn't really trying to keep the Kaprizov line away from the Eichel line when Minnesota was at home. The Golden Knights got that McDavid versus Eichel matchup a decent amount in Game 3 as well. I wonder if part of splitting up McDavid and Draisaitl was trying to get one of them away from Eichel's line. But the beauty of Jack Eichel and Mark Stone and Ivan Barbashev and the way that the Golden Knights are able to handle that is that you don't need to get them away from the other team's checkers or best players for them to produce offense. I want Jack Eichel to shut down the McDavid line as best he can, and I still expect them to produce offensively in the meantime. That's a matchup that, as Bruce Cassidy was saying, I don't need to keep my best players away from their best players. I trust my best players to win that head-to-head matchup, and that's made the matchup easier. For the Oilers, it's interesting. We've talked about going into Game 3. They'd won 6 games in come-from-behind fashion. Mentioned the pressure that goes on them now in Game 4 not to allow this series to get even. The 6 straight comeback wins, that's a great storyline while you have it. Mm-hmm. As soon as you don't have it anymore, well, now it's, why have we been playing from behind for 6 straight games? It's a very delicate line between this comeback team, nothing gets them down, and, hey, we really haven't controlled a game from start to finish yet. And I wonder how much onus that puts on them to, on home ice in Game 4, respond and not let a VGK team get a lot of momentum coming off of Game 3 they feel really good about.
The idea of splitting up the 2 superstars for Edmonton gives them an opportunity to escape the primary matchup, but then you follow it up. You've got the Eichel's line and then Karlsson's line, so it's beautiful. And I wouldn't have an issue playing either one of those lines head-to-head with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. So the luxury that Vegas has with those top defensive units, and then the depth beyond that. And the 5-on-5 play, I think, took a big step towards showing us the VGK identity that we're all used to. We saw more of that in Game 3.
Especially with Karlsson and Smith, and so much more generated high danger off the rush in Game 3 for the Golden Knights. We talk a lot about the game-winning goal for Riley Smith, and for obvious reasons. His first goal of the game, that's the exact same play as the McDavid overtime goal. It's a puck up the left wing wall. Jack Eichel receives the pass. Klingberg goes to him. He bumps it back almost in that hook and ladder kind of sequence to get guys moving in the wrong direction. And Smith comes in with speed going against Podkolzin and Arvidsson with stick reaches. Now, again, for McDavid, it's full-blown, unadulterated speed. With Riley Smith, it's a little more dangle in the hands. But it was the very same concept that McDavid won Game 2 with, that Riley Smith scored in Game 3 to tie the game. And that was just something that they did so much better off the rush, was using their speed, pushing players back, and using that second wave of the attack.
Going to that, and it was a sneaky, salty backhand move to beat Stuart Skinner on it. But
now for our streaming
here's
audience,
the rush.
There's the pass on the wall. Klingberg sucked in, bump it back, and now you've got Smith going against two forwards who are either caught in the sand or moving the wrong direction, and he's got the advantage coming with a full head of steam. There's more players in the picture, but it's the exact same thing that McDavid did against the Golden Knights at the end of Game 2, and that just again showed how much dynamism the Golden Knights had off the rush, and the William Karlsson give and go with Noah Hanifin is also dynamism off the rush. And you remember that this is an Oilers team that doesn't have Matthias Ekholm. They do have Darnell Nurse is paid to defend, but
I think they defended really well without Ekholm.
I do too.
Yeah.
But they still have a blue line that if you're looking at Jake Wallman, if you're looking at Evan Bouchard, there's no reason not to just go right at him and force them to make a play on you with moving their feet.
Bruce mentioned a little bit of that yesterday, that if you've got a defenseman one-on-one, try and make a play. Try and beat them.
Make them
Take
stop
them deep,
you.
because even if you're denied an opportunity, there's a chance the puck's going to end up deep anyway, so you've accomplished that.
Yeah, and I think that's just gotten better and better as this series has gone along, is driving with your feet. And we've talked so much about Eichel and Stone, how they've created offensively. Eichel driving in, pulling everyone down with him, and then Stone hanging high in the zone and getting a clean look from above the circles. More lines getting involved with that kind of attack mentality opens up more in the middle of the ice.
Got some questions coming in, so we'll get to those in just a little bit and kind of rapid fire go through them and get your thoughts into game number 4 and where you stand, and maybe some thoughts on lineup decisions, though the way they're coming. Mark Stone being game time, I think that's really positive.
Oh, extremely. And we also know everyone's playing a little bit of chess this time of year in terms of what they reveal. But it's not as if early in this playoff season, when there's a player that's been flat out unavailable, that hasn't been made known. So sure, there may be a little bit coy, a little bit not coy, but the fact that it isn't just a flat out, hey, he's not available. Mark Stone participated as a full participant in morning skate, it sounds like. So that's extremely positive heading into tonight.
I wasn't sure we would see him tonight. So just the sight at the morning skate is really uplifting.
Yeah. Well, just like we weren't sure we were going to see Braden McNabb in Game 3 either, which just again shows you guys can play through a lot in the playoffs when
I found myself
the
watching
motivation's there.
Watching McNabb throughout that game, blocking a shot or involved physically, wondering how is he doing that, given that we didn't know whether he was going to play.
Yeah, and
he didn't play didn't skate in the morning twirl.
Right,
just went out there. So.
I don't believe he did this morning either, but I think they said that was maintenance, so he's expected for tonight.
He was available yesterday and said there is no carryover effects. We will hear from his D partner, Shea Theodore, as we continue on Nighttime at Noon. Plus your questions and comments ahead of game number 4. Send them to us on all the VGK social media channels, X and YouTube. What else do we have there?
Twitch, I think.
Twitch, yeah. So keep those coming our way. MySpace is good.
Still have yours, huh?
Underappreciated, yeah. Dial-up. Remember the dial-up days?
Mine your top 5 friends?
No.
God.
Nope. Sorry. Great. Your unbelievable acquaintance, though. Season tickets for the 2025-26 NHL season are on sale now. Season ticket offers Golden Knight fans the best savings for single game ticket prices with full season membership starting at $58 per game. That's just $58 a ticket per game. Other benefits of membership including access to member ticket events and gifts, priority access to playoff tickets, so much more. A meet and greet with Brian McCormack. Head to VegasGoldenKnights.com to buy yours today. Back with Shea Theodore as we continue on Nighttime at Noon. Working our way towards game time tonight. Pregame show on Scripps Sports and Nighttime Plus will come your way at 6 o'clock tonight. And on the radio side, it will follow the BGK Insider Show on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Game 4, Golden Knights trying to rip off another victory. And funny, we made so much about Edmonton winning those 6 straight in come-from-behind fashion. Vegas, for the second time in these playoffs, lost back-to-back games. Mm-hmm. On the first occasion, they ripped off 3 straight wins against Minnesota. They'll try to replicate that in this series against the Edmonton Oilers. There's talk of some lineup changes for the Oilers up front, primarily. They don't have a lot of depth on the blue line, to be matter of fact, so unless there's an injury there, they're not going to do much. But the early indications are McDavid and Draisaitl will be broken up, and they're going to maybe put some other guys into the fold.
Yeah, and this is going off of, actually the Oilers website, so I can trust them to have a good inkling on what they might do. And this is a projection, but it sounds like...
You know what they're thinking right now? We're going to get that McCormack
He's falling
guy.
for it.
We're going to get that McCormack guy. McDavid and Draisaitl scratched. Let's see who falls for this.
It does look like from their morning activities that McDavid, Hyman might bump up with McDavid and Perry, and then Draisaitl might drop down between Nugent Hopkins and Janmark. That's what they have as their projected lines from morning skate activities. And then there was word that Victor Arvidsson stayed out on the ice later, and Kasperi Kapanen came off sooner, so perhaps there's a flop there. And then all indications are on the blue line that Ty Emerson comes out and Troy Stetcher comes in. Which again is all hypothetical, and
And Emerson hasn't played
I'm biting
a lot.
hard on what they're luring out there.
Emerson, like he's their sixth guy on that blue line, so it won't.
Well, and them again trying to find minutes that ordinarily go to Ekholm and how to disperse that amongst the entire group. But it's a task that's been made far easier by how good John Klingberg has been for them in the playoffs. But yeah, they're trying to figure out some stability on the bottom pair, because again, Ty Emerson until recently was predominantly an AHLer before this season.
Vegas in game number 1 led with 3 minutes to go. Or sorry, it was a tie game with 3 minutes to go. They'd scored first in that game. And in game 3, it was the Edmonton Oilers who had a 2-0 lead. There's been a lot that's been going on in this series. Like, game 1. We don't even remember game 1.
You never really do, and I think the reason is because so many series, I mean, it's not automatic, but so many series, you heard Bruce talk about, hey, you got to get better within series. And the Oilers, there was a lot of talk after game 1 about going back to the LA series, how their trend is they're getting better within hockey games. Not a great first period team, but plus 11 in the third period at the start of this series. So you got to get better within games. You got to get better within series as well. And how often does game 1 look absolutely nothing like the other games in a 7-game series? You come in, you go off the tape you have, you see your matchups, you make a lot of mistakes, and then you clean them up for game 2, and it just locks up more. So I think game 1 is always such an outlier that we just completely forget about it.
We will take your questions in just a little bit. Send them to us on X, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. I want to remind you the watch parties will take place tonight. A little bit of a tweak on them for Circus Sportsbook and America First Center, the Plaza. They're going to move everything inside just because of all the wind.
A little windy today.
So just make it a little more enjoyable out there. So that's Circus Sportsbook and America First Center Plaza. Still go out there, still enjoy it, be with your friends and your fellow fans, but they're just going to move it inside. So if you don't see everybody down in the Circus Sportsbook, it's going to be instead of Stadium Swim. So that's the option. And again, that's 21 and over too. So keep that in mind. Shea Theodore has had an impact on these playoffs. He is standing by in Edmonton ahead of Game 4.
They're still going to get their looks, McDavid and Draisaitl, but you guys largely have done a pretty good job against them. What have you liked about kind of the way you've handled them?
Yeah, I mean, I think just doing it as a group. Obviously, one-on-one is next to impossible, but I feel like when our centers are over top, I think watching Carly last game, it was special and fun to watch, and the way that they're able to help us D out is huge, and you have to do it as a group.
What's it like playing in a series where it feels like the lead is kind of safe, right, on either side, really? So at any point, no matter what the score is, you're probably still in it to a degree.
For sure, I think that shows our last game. I felt like we had a good effort, and obviously some of the bounces didn't go our way, but we had one at the end there that really mattered.
What do you think about around the league? There's tons of comebacks everywhere. Some of the best goalies in our game, their save percentage starts with 8 now. Used to be 925 this time of year. What do you think's happening?
That's a good question, but I don't know exactly. It just seems like it's that time of year where the pressure's on, and bounces are kind of crazy. You look around the league, it seems like every night there's a puck going off, a skate or a hand, and hopefully we get some more of those bounces tonight.
That is such a good question from Mark Spector that it was followed up on by Jenny on our chat book here, wanting to know why things are so vulnerable when it comes to leads. And we'll get more of your questions in just a little bit on the chats on X, YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. But the leads have been volatile in and around the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I think Bruce talked about this a little bit, I think, yesterday as well. Like, why has it gone from being all the playoff games are 2-1 to all the playoff games are 5-4? And it's like, well, it's a lot more goals on a lot fewer shots, so you figure that teams are more selective with the pucks they're putting on net, and if you actually get a look, you get 5 looks a night, but the 5 looks you get are pretty good ones. They're the ones that actually slip through the cracks. So, maybe there's a higher percentage of pucks going in that sense. I feel like the Golden Knights series at this point kind of, to me, has a very similar vibe to what Toronto and Florida have going on right now. I don't know why. It's just kind of felt kind of comparable to me as I've been watching them go along, including blown leads early in games. But I also just think you've got a couple of teams that have played good come-from-behind hockey, so they're comfortable in that setting. And it's also 2-0 leads in the first 10 minutes of hockey games. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of time to come back from that if you're a team that knows how to buckle down, minimize mistakes, and just chip away slowly.
Thought Bruce was getting to the point, and then he was asked another question, and things veered off. But it sounds like he believes that things are getting more locked in around the league, that these 4-3s and 5-4s are coming down to more traditional scores.
Yeah, it sounds like from the clip that I heard, it was him saying again, like there's 5 goals on 18 shots, so you're making more of the grade A looks that you get, and shooters are more talented every year, so maybe there's something to that too. But I would say this goes back a couple of years now. I mean, offense is up across the league overall anyway.
Which is great, yep.
But you're just not seeing the same. Even the guys that you used to see those lockdown performances from, like your Sergei Bobrovskys or whatever, they're giving up 3 or 4 goal playoff games too. So, I mean, certainly it's a shift, but maybe the looks they're getting are better. Or Shea talked about it. We see a lot more pucks rattling and ricocheting in more than we used to as well. There was a goal. I'm trying to remember who scored yesterday in the. It was in the Florida game, but it was a save by Bobrovsky. It rolled right off of Seth Jones and rolled in behind him. Like, there's just so much congestion. It's not even the risk of the screen or the deflection on the puck coming in on the first wave. It's who's it going to hit after it hits you.
So are they flukes? Are they lucky bounces? Because I think to the first round, and Mark Stone makes that play to Tomas Hertl in front with Hertl battling with Hartman, and not in a million years did I ever see that as a conscious move. And Stone made it sound like, I was throwing it over there and I was hoping to get a bounce. And he did.
Yeah, it's maybe guys are bouncier now.
Imagine the coach imagine the coach planning that in the whiteboard. Like watching all this, so everything trickles down, right?
Yeah.
You get to your minor hockey. So the U12, the coach is saying, okay, you guys get the puck over here in the corner and just put it in front of the net and rattle it off the D right there.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. The way it's going right now.
But it has always been the thought too, especially from the point or from above the circles. Like, you know what? You may not get it to the net. Get past the first wave of shot blockers. If it hits the shin guard 5 feet in front of you, it's a break the other way. If it hits a shin guard 2 feet in front of Stuart Skinner, well, that's chaos. That can be anything. So it is important just to get past that first layer. But I feel like this playoff has felt like it's had a lot more pinball than I'm used to seeing. And also, we usually see the whistles put away. There just aren't as many power plays in the playoffs. There have been a decent number of power plays in these playoffs, and it's because there's 4 high sticking calls a game. I texted you about this the other day.
Yeah, you're on this.
High sticking is getting called a lot, and rightfully so. There's guys, they're 4-minute double minors. Guys are getting hit hard, but like that's been way higher than I feel like I remember in the past.
A little looser? Is that the competitiveness? Or
maybe
just
everything's looser.
Carelessness?
Maybe that's it. Maybe the playoffs this year are loose and careless. Maybe that's what it is.
Sounds like this show, doesn't it?
No, you're the one
Loose
you've had
and
that
careless.
you've had that tie hanging around your neck for 45 minutes now, threatening to tie it.
I can't do it up with you.
Justin, come tie his tie, please.
Considering you're here in a muscle shirt and I'm in a suit, I'm not going to do up the tie.
Team, this has a collar.
Last call for questions right now to the chats over on X and YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We will get to those in the next block. I also want to remind you that watch parties have been tweaked a little bit tonight. Still expecting a great turnout tonight inside Circa Sportsbook and not up at Stadium Swim because of the wind, but Circa Sportsbook and America First Center at the Plaza. That's been moved to inside as well. We'll come back with your questions, comments, and look ahead. Final thoughts on Game 4 as we continue on Nighttime at Noon. Sample from more than 200 craft beers and 500 tequilas and other premium spirits. And right now, tickets are buy one, get one free. Visit leesfamilyforum.com for details. That should be a t-shirt. Come from the hockey and the conversation and stay for the beer and the tequila.
Yeah, that's going to be on Saturday. That's between a potential Game 6 and Game 7. But imagine if that lined up with a watch party. Go straight from the beer and tequila experience into Game 7.
Isn't that every day in Vegas?
Fair enough. That's right. You know, find it on your own. There's options.
That's pretty cool. You've been out there before. It's fun with all those different samples.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun and a lot of options, and especially me. I'm very simple. I'm not a very well not a lot of variety in my beer and tequila intake, except for Georgie Lopez, the equipment manager for the Silver Knights. He's a tequila connoisseur, so he makes he makes good recommendations, but. I usually just go the first thing on the menu or just what I'm used to. I'm afraid of making a terrible mistake. So the idea of going somewhere where I can do a little bit of exploring, do a little bit of learning is that's a good opportunity.
Whatever happened to the worm? The worm used to be a big thing in tequila.
Like the dance? Oh,
no.
the in the bottle. I never found it.
Never. Now none of them have it. It's like tequila's too good for the worm. It's amazing. So you brought
Maybe
up
the worms
something,
don't want that job anymore.
You brought up something earlier today, a memory off of what we've just witnessed. So explain to it, because we found the video from your 1997.
Oh, so the Riley Smith game winner in Game 3 goes off the camera, and Riley Smith is the only one who knows it. And let's go way back to 1997. Esa Tikkanen does kind of the same thing. This is an overtime. This was, I don't know, Game 3, Game 4. So he lets a shot go. It hits the camera and comes out. And the only one who knows is Esa Tikkanen. And when they go to review, and we talk
play continued after
for a little bit, yeah. And that's Dan Marawelli is doing the review. But again, now there's 5 tablets on the bench. The team figures it out a lot quicker. But right now, he's the only one smiling. This is in 1997, and. I don't know how long we're going to stay with this shot. Well, here you go. So here's the camera inside the net. Doink. And that was the first look where everyone in the building started to realize, like, oh, wait a minute, this game is over. Mm-hmm. And this was this is the first season for Gretzky on Broadway. So everyone remembers from this series the Wayne Gretzky hat trick. But this goal to me is probably a little bit more memorable because it took about 5 minutes of review, and they eventually realized that it went off the camera and out. So again, after as this sequence goes on, his teammates start to realize, like, oh, Esa's right. But there was a solid 5 minutes there where Esa Tikkanen was the only guy with his arms up celebrating. And that when Riley Smith scored, my mind went to that immediately. Right there, doink.
It's amazing. They film games underwater back then.
That's right. And your buddy Doug McLean on the Florida Panther bench. So at some point there was a shot of him being unhappy, but irrefutable.
Thinking John Van Beesbroek could have played that a little bit differently.
Was that? That's taken at a really good shot. I don't know if everyone remembers. This is the ultimate look that everyone was certain that overhead look. But yeah, that was talk about a lot of goals going in. Now go back to the mid '90s and see where some goaltenders were getting beat from, and it was
another game involving the Florida Panthers. More recently, Sasha Barkov gets decked last night in the final seconds by Max Domi.
A little bit of tone setting.
I thought it was dangerous and dirty. I'm fine with dirty. I thought it was dangerous. Now, Max has been fined $5,000, but there's no suspension.
Right. And fine, because the league has said that at that point late in games, you've mentioned, we were talking about this off air, the time at which it happens, the score, the context is something that NHL player safety wants to discourage guys making hits, taking swings at guys that are intended for the next game to come. I don't know that's how they expect Max Domi to do in terms of for the Maple Leafs. If they want to make a message for Game 5, I think they'll pay that fine.
So we did a reenactment because I think it's suspendable, and you think it's just fine.
It was a penalty, but I don't know if it's not suspendable.
We played through it, did a walkthrough here in Studio 31.
A dramatization, yeah.
Domi came from a long way back and then hits Barkov. I did the same thing in the studio, and you are a solid dude because you stopped me cold. I didn't even come close to moving you. So one thing is I give Domi credit because he actually bumped Barkov down into the boards, and with you, it was like nothing.
Yes, if Alexander Barkov had handled that the way I handled it,
yes,
it's a completely different conversation.
There wouldn't even be a discussion at all.
That just looked like the worst game of leapfrog that's ever been played.
Like it's just like boom, it's like you're a brick wall up there. Thanks to Ron and our crew for getting through that. Amber,
Lexi, our videographer.
Yeah. But Amber has a question here on YouTube. What's your favorite part about a watch party?
Do you want me to start?
Well, yeah. I was asking the question. You answer it.
Well, so often
we should have practiced that. Let's try it again. Amber from YouTube wants to know, what's your favorite part about a watch party?
Well, Darren, what I enjoy in watch parties, we are always either calling games or working games. Like, there's so many fan functions like that where you need to be in your suit and tie. It's actually fun at those watch parties to actually be able to be a fan and be able to kind of indulge in that element of a little bit more. So I always enjoy that. And most of the watch parties I've been able to go to have been Lee's Family Forum, the Plaza at America First Center. So I enjoy that. Just let my hair down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I just like celebrating with people, like the random people that you high five or hug after a goal. I think that's my most memorable part of going to those events, where it's just we're all in this thing together.
And not to mention the fact that it makes the game more memorable too, in the sense that I was not there, but for Game 3, anyone who was at Fountain Blue for that watch party for the 0.4 second Riley Smith goal, like that's a kind of a crowd pop that you don't necessarily get at your local watering hole.
All right, Lexi, where we want to go here to Kevin on YouTube, who wants to know, do you think Hurdle will get going more?
I mean, he had a great look in Game 3. One of the better saves Stuart Skinner made was a glove save, and of course, traveling on Twitter was the mishap that happened on the bench. They had some fun with that this morning. There's a white tape outline on the Golden Knights bench of Mike Muir. So they're having a good time with it. But you know what? That might be just the thing to get him going. Everyone had a good laugh and a little extenuating circumstance. And now to make up for that, look for a couple of goals in Game 4.
Joel Ward is right there, the assistant coach.
Cool as ever. He just glanced over his shoulder. Who threw that rock?
Yeah, I sent Joel a text after and said, did you tell Mearsy that you got the number of the guy?
Tell you what, also though, tough as nails.
Mearsy?
Yeah.
Yes. He's a curler. It's in his blood. He's stoic.
And just goes off to the side like, no, don't want to distract anyone from the matter at hand.
Don't want to draw attention. Justin on Twitter, do you guys remember a time with this many deflected goals in the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't know if we're just wrapped up in the moment. I don't, or at least not that much crazy ping pong.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was, but maybe not so many. Maybe not so many deflected goals where a defenseman's staring up at the rafters in disbelief. That feels like it's happening more than usual.
It's almost like people are playing it that way, to that defenseman on the back door and saying, okay, if my guy doesn't get it, it's going to go off them.
Yeah.
And you might see a change in the way. Rick was talking about this a little bit earlier in this round. You might see defensemen playing differently because they don't want to be vulnerable to a ricochet.
Yeah, and how do you defend against it? Maybe it's just, again, really good players, smart enough to put the puck in those dangerous areas and play the percentages.
Watch parties tonight at Circa Sportsbook and inside America First Center Plaza. Thanks for listening. Go Knights Go. Tonight, Game 4, Edmonton and Vegas.